and welcome to More Time in the Kitchen. So we're getting to around that time of year where a lot of little baby birds are going to be flying the nest and plummeting headfirst into adulthood, either at college or university. And this is a time in a lot of people's lives where they're going to have to start cooking for themselves on a regular basis, rather than just, every now and then when the parents were away or they just wanted to do it for fun. So this is a time people are going to have to start, properly feeding themselves and also budgeting as well. So when I was in the first year of university, before I really sort of got into cooking, the sort of things that I would make were either recipes that my mum had given me, or things that I just sort of picked up, or maybe simple things like frying a few vegetables and some meat and throwing in a pre-made sauce. But I remember a few of my friends having these student cookbooks, and there was one that was really good actually. I think it was called Student Nosh. I can't remember, it's been a few years obviously. But there was a few books that some of my friends had that they were called student cookbooks, but they weren't really geared towards student. Maybe a student chef, but not a regular student. So they asked for things like, blenders or food processors that a student kitchen is not going to have. What else? There was some weird ingredients in some of the recipes as well. Not weird, but just things that you wouldn't expect a student to be cooking with. I remember one in particular that's always stood out, and that was cockles. One of the recipes asked for cockles, and I mean, a student is not going to nip down to their local fishmongers and buy some cockles unless they're really confident in cooking, are they? It's just not something that an inexperienced cook is going to cook with. So that's why I wanted to make a series of recipe videos that are going to have cheap ingredients. They're going to be easy to find ingredients as well. They're going to be easy to follow, and you're not going to need any fancy equipment. You're not even going to need measuring equipment like measuring spoons or a set of scales. So although these videos are going to be geared towards students, because that's sort of a group that I can identify with, because I've been a student. It's been a few years now, but I've been there. But anyone who is newly getting into cooking or just wants some cheap and easy recipes will hopefully benefit from these series of videos. So apologies for the long introduction. I just wanted to get across what my plan was for this series of videos. But without further ado, let's get cooking. So for the first video in this series, I'm going to be showing you how to make frittatas. Frittatas are really simple to make, and the two main ingredients that are going to be in a frittata are egg and potatoes. So cheap and really widely available, and they're also really versatile. Basically, if you can think of anything that would go on a pizza, you can stick it in a frittata. So there's tons of different things that you could put on there, but I'm going to be showing you 3 recipes. The first is very simple cheese and onion, the second is going to be smoked sausage and pepper, and the third is going to be a little bit different. It's going to be a carbonara frittata. The third one is a little bit different. In that one we're going to be using spaghetti rather than potatoes. So it's technically not a frittata, but I don't know what else you'd call it other than an abomination, but a tasty abomination. So the first thing I'm going to show you is basic egg mixture, which is going to be pretty much the same in all 3 of the frittata recipes. The last one's going to be slightly different, but I'll walk you through that later. So the first thing you want to get is a mug. You then want to break 1, 2, 3 eggs into the mug. You're then going to get a fork and give them a good beating. Next, you're going to add a little bit of seasoning. I just like to add pepper, but not any salt, because there's going to be quite a lot of salt in the cheese and some of the other ingredients in some of the recipes that we're going to be adding later on. Lastly, we're going to add a splash of milk and then just mix that together. So that's your basic egg mixture. The other ingredient that you're always going to find in a frittata, other than the weird carbonara one, is your humble spud. So I've got just 1 medium potato here, and it's quite a good way of actually using up any leftover potatoes from another meal, maybe a roast. But for the purposes of the video, I'll show you me cooking the potato. So I usually cut the potato in half and then into quarters. So this is just to make cooking a little bit quicker. Now I'm going to parboil these. So parboiling is when you boil something but until it's not completely cooked. So it's almost there but not completely. So I would usually cook potatoes for about 15 minutes if I'm boiling them. But for these, I'm going to cook them for 12 minutes. And that just means that they're going to be a little bit sturdier when I'm slicing them later after they've cooked. And they're going to finish cooking in the pan with the rest of the ingredients in the frittata. Get a pot of water boiling and throw the spuds in. So for the first frittata, the cheese and onion frittata, you're going to need about 50 grams of cheese. Like I say, don't need to measure it out, just approximate it. Just use as much cheese as makes you happy. And we're also going to use half an onion. So we're going to dice the onion, and just a little tip for when you're cutting onions is you can top it before you cut your onion in half, but you want to keep the bottom bit on, the hairy bit or the arse of the onion, if you will. And this just keeps the onion together as you're cutting it up. Another little tip whenever you're cutting any vegetables is to keep a little plastic bag beside the chopping board, and that way you can just throw any of your rubbish into the bin as you go along, rather than having to scoop it all up and get it all over your hands when you're finished. Okay, then you're gonna start at one end and just slice downwards, making sure that you don't go right to the end of the onion. And you can see that the end is holding it all together. Then cut across the other way. So you can see it's all held together for me there, it's not sort of falling apart. And then we can just get rid of the end. Once your potatoes have cooled down, you're just going to cut them into thick slices. I've left the skin on mine. If you're adverse to that, you're more than welcome to take the skins off. So the next step is going to be to fry your vegetables, but what you can do at this stage is preheat your grill, because it is going to go under the grill at the end just to finish it off. So I'm going to preheat my grill to 200 degrees centigrade, and that'll be high on a grill that doesn't have a temperature on it. So now we'll get to frying. So we'll heat the hob to medium-high temperature. And we're going to add some oil. I'm just going to use some vegetable oil. You want to add a good amount of oil so that your frittata is not going to stick to your pan. If you're worried about using too much oil, you could just use a healthier oil, or accept the fact that your frittata is going to stick to your pan and it's going to look a bit messy. If you're not bothered about that, then fine. But I'm going to add a decent amount of oil to mine. We can then add our half onion. And we're going to cook that for about a minute before adding the potatoes. Now I'm just going to sort of shove the onions to the side to make some room for the potatoes, because I want the potatoes to make contact with the pan, and this will be to just add a little bit of crispness to the potatoes. So those slices of potato will need about 2 or 3 minutes on either side. We'll flip one over and see if it's done. Yeah, oh, it looks great. So we've just got a little brown bit there, so that's caramelization. So it'll just make them nice and crispy. So when the potatoes are nearly done, we're going to turn down the heat just a little bit, and we're going to get our egg mixture and our cheese. We're going to throw in the egg mixture, try and get a good coating of everything. So don't just dump it all in one bit in the pan. And then we're going to add about half of the cheese. So as it cooks, you can just ease your spatula under it just to keep it loose from the pan. That means you'll get it out easier at the end. So you can see if you wiggle it a little bit that there's still just a little bit of raw egg in some parts, but it is mostly cooked. So what we're going to do now is turn the heat off on the hob, sprinkle the rest of the cheese on, and then we're going to stick that under the grill. So you can see it all bubbling away under the grill there. You essentially just want to leave it until it's crispy and golden on the top. Make sure to use an oven glove when you're taking it out. When it's done, you just want to ease it loose from the pan by shaking it a little bit, and then just ease it onto a plate. So that's frittata number 1 done. On to number 2. So to frittata number 2, we are adding 100 grams of smoked sausage, half a red pepper, half an onion, and again 50 grams of grated cheddar cheese. So I'm going to dice up the onion as before, and as I do, I'm going to give you my first student tip. So my tip is to join a club or get a hobby. This is particularly in your first year when you're going to have a little bit more time. You know, before your course gets a little bit more serious as the years go on, or you know, before you go off to work and have got lots of things to do. So it's a good time to get involved in hobbies, and if you join one of your university clubs, and particularly if you're a member of the sort of core team, maybe like a team captain or a team treasurer or something like that, is a really good thing to have on your CV. So it shows you've got team working and organisational skills, and it also shows that there's a little bit more to you than whatever profession you're training for. Now the pepper and the sausage I'm just going to slice like so. So when I was at university, I joined the university Aikido club, and I ended up becoming captain of it. So Aikido is a Japanese martial art, so yeah, I was captain of a martial arts club. You wouldn't believe it, would you? And I didn't get there because I was good at it. I didn't get there because I was that enthusiastic about it. I don't know, I did, my enthusiasm for it sort of fluctuated a little bit. No, basically, I became captain because I was the only regular member of the club. So a lot of other people would just turn up like once in a blue moon. So yeah, although it was a little bit of a farce, I did get something out of it, you know. There was some work to do. I remember putting a lot more effort into it in my second year, especially with the freshers fair. Like I did little leaflets, handed them out, got quite into it. But yeah, it just wasn't a club that held many members, unfortunately. I think most people wanted to do common things like badminton and stuff, which is fair enough. I'm just going to slice up the potatoes again. I might add a little less potato, might not add the whole potato to this one, because we might run out of room in the frying pan. Right, so that's everything prepped. Let's go over to the frying pan. So we're going to start as we did before by preheating the hob and the grill, and we're going to throw in some oil. We're then going to throw in our onion, and again cook it for about a minute, and then place in your potato slices. After about 3 minutes, flip your potatoes over. And then we can add in our pepper slices and our sausage. So once that's cooked for another 3 minutes or so, you're going to add your egg mixture. And about half of the cheese. So as I said before, just give the edges a little bit of a poke to stop the frittata sticking to the pan. Once most of the top is cooked, but you've still got a little bit of runny egg, sprinkle the rest of your cheese on and let that get nice and crispy and brown before you plate it up. So as I've said, the egg mixture for the carbonara one is going to be a little bit different. So rather than 3 eggs, we've got 4 in there, and rather than milk, I'm going to add a splash of single cream. And the reason I'm doing that is that carbonara sauce typically has cream in it and it's a little bit richer. So I want to try and mimic the flavour of a carbonara sauce. But you don't have to add cream if you don't want to, you can just add milk. So the other ingredients going into the carbonara frittata are 4 slices of bacon, 1 clove of garlic, a handful of frozen peas, about 30 grams of grated Parmesan cheese, and of course the spaghetti. Now you probably want to add less spaghetti than you would if you were making yourself a dish of pasta. So I'd say about half that amount. So I've got a pot of water nearly boiling here, and I've got my spaghetti in hand. And much like the potatoes, we're going to cook it until it's not quite done. So when you're talking about pasta, this is called al dente. So it's just a posh way of saying almost done. And it's just so that it doesn't overcook when we add it into the main part of the dish, the frittata. So to get it al dente, you'll want it 1 or 2 minutes less than whatever your pack instructions advise. So there are 2 types of people. There are people who like crispy bacon, and there are people who are wrong. So to get nice and crispy bacon, you want to get your pan nice and hot before you add it in. And we're going to do it for about 3 minutes on either side. So once the pan's nice and hot, you're going to add in your bacon. Ooh, smell that sizzle. So the pasta is now cooked, and I've just drained that and left it to one side. And as you can see, the bacon is nice and browned. So what I'm going to do now is pick it up and just cut it into strips. Now, because I've got a pair of tongs, I can just do this over the pan, which is a little bit quicker. But if you don't have a pair of tongs, then just take the bacon out of the pan, let it cool a little bit, and snip it onto a plate before returning it to the pan. Next, we're going to add in the clove of garlic. Now, if you don't have a garlic press, what you can do is either simply finely slice the garlic, or you can get a fine grater and just grate it straight into the pan. Your fingers might end up a little bit smelly, just to warn you. But you can wash them with soap. Next, we're going to add the frozen peas. That should do. Then we can add in the pasta. So you don't want a big clump of pasta in your frittata, so try and just get everything spread out a little bit before you add in the egg. And as before, we're going to add in the egg mixture, and again add half of your cheese. And again, once it's mostly solid but still got a little bit of runny egg, sprinkle the rest of your cheese on top and go ahead and stick it under the grill. And remember to use an oven glove to get it out with. My favourite way to serve this one is to cut it in half and serve it with some garlic bread and a little side salad. Thanks very much guys for watching. That's the 3 frittatas just chilling out in the background there. There's going to be lots more student meals to come in the future. I'll be doing roughly 1 a month. So by the time we get round to the next lot of students, I'll have a bit of a catalogue backed up. But if you would like to support the channel now, then like, comment, subscribe and hit the notification bell if you'd like to be notified when I make a new video. But cheerio, bye for now. My favourite way to have this one is to cut it in half and serve it with a little